I got a Slurpee here. It's cherry flavored, and I don't know if you've ever gone to get a Slurpee before, but sometimes it's like the worst feeling ever when you go all the way to the store and you go to get a Slurpee, and then all of a sudden the machine says out of order, and you're just like, what? How? Whose job is it to fix the Slurpee machine? Like, it has to be fixed. Or when you run over to the store and it's all ran out of Slurpee, and you're like, why is there no more Slurpee? It's just ice. Can't you make more ice? What's happening? You know what I mean? So today I woke up at 5 a.m. and I made sure I ran to the store, and I was first in line for the Slurpee because I wanted to make sure that there was always enough Slurpee for me. And I got the big one. You see here, it's the largest size that you can possibly get. So I got up super early, and I was a little bit worried, but after I got in line and I got my Slurpee, I realized, you know what? It's gonna be a good day. So it's gonna be a good day. Wait, before I go, I think I was supposed to tell you guys this earlier, but did you know, if you're watching this right now, yeah, right now, that you are a part of the Church Kids family? Yep, that's right. And you don't technically have to like Slurpees or even have a Slurpee to be in the Church Kids family, but one thing we're really good at is we're really good at having fun. And if you are watching Mr. Damon's message right after this, I'm sure you'll notice that you will be laughing a lot because we love having fun in Church Kids. Another thing that we love doing in the Church Kids family is finding out more about who Jesus is. And all throughout the message, you'll get to learn about who Jesus is as a Church Kids family. It's one of the greatest families you could possibly be a part of. So you guys have fun, and I'll see you guys later.
Hey, Church Kids, it's Mr. Damon, and I am so so excited that I get to hang out with you today. Do you know why I'm so excited? It's because you're amazing. You're absolutely incredible. Do you realize just how important you are? You are so important to Mr. Damon, but more importantly, you are so important to Jesus. It's so true. You are absolutely incredible. And I am so thankful for the times that we get to hang out together here in Church Kids. Well, I have got a ridiculous story for you today. But before we jump into that, let's go to the Bible. And the reason why we read the Bible, it's not because the Bible's special per se, it's because of what the Bible does. The Bible points us to Jesus. And Jesus is the number one reason why we are even here. So let's do it. Let's go straight to the Bible. Matthew 8, verse 23, it says this. Then he, Jesus, got into the boat, his disciples with him. The next thing they knew, they were in a severe storm. Waves were crashing into the boat, and he, Jesus, was sound asleep. They roused him, pleading, Master, save us, we're going down. Jesus reprimanded or scolded them, saying, why are you such cowards, such faint hearts? Then he stood up and told the wind to be silent and the sea to quiet down. Silence! And the sea became smooth as glass. And then in Romans chapter 15, it says, oh, may the God of green hope fill you with joy, fill you up with peace, so that your believing lives, filled with the life-giving energy of the Holy Spirit, will brim over with hope. That's an amazing story. But before we get into that, Church Kid, there's something I need to ask you. What was it? I know what it is. It's the question of the week. And the question of the week is this. Have you ever gone to the gas station with your mom or your dad? You're out driving in the car, not you, okay, because you're not old enough to drive yet, but you're with your parents and you're driving and the little light comes on the dashboard and it's like bing, bing, bing. And they're like, oh, we're almost out of gas. So where do they go? Go to the gas station. And they pull in, your mom gets out, she puts your credit card into the machine, pulls out the little nozzly snake thingamajiggy, and then she puts it into the car and then fills up the car with gas while she stands there and listens to elevator music. Church Kids, that's what it is to fill up your car with gas. Now, let's say Your parents were in a big hurry, and they didn't have time to go to the gas station. So, I don't know, they just decided to fill up the car with any type of liquid that they had on hand. Like, a jug of maple syrup, or maybe a bottle of super glue. How about a Slurpee? Right? I mean, they're all liquid. Gasoline, Slurpee. Am I right? Not a big deal. Yeah, it's a huge deal. Why? Because a car was not created to be filled up with Slurpee super glue or lake water. It was made to be filled up with gasoline. And church kids, do you know, in the exact same way, God did not create you or me to be filled up with fear. He created us to be filled with gasoline. Wait, no, peace. He made us to be filled up with something called peace. Now, what is peace? Peace is the feeling that you have when you're at rest or you're feeling confident. Peace is when we're at rest, or we're feeling confident. And do you know God has created you to live not with fear, but with peace? And in our story today, we learn exactly about that. But you know what? Before we get into this, I need to change for a second. Yes, that's more like it. So in our story today, church kids, Jesus is hanging out with his 12 best friends, his guys, his entourage, his disciples. And one day, Jesus says to his friends, he's like, guys, I need to go somewhere, so let's go ahead and hop into a boat and sail to where we need to be. And so the disciples hopped into a boat. Wait, no, not that. That's a battleship. Wait, no. What is that? A pool floaty? You think Jesus and his disciples rode on a pool floaty? No. Yes, there you go. It was like a wooden fishing boat. And so all 12 disciples and Jesus climbed into this big wooden fishing boat and they set out across the lake. Well, Jesus was tired. So he grabbed his Avengers pillow, went to the back of the boat, found a nice cozy space, laid down, and went to sleep and started sawing logs. And the disciples were talking and having a great time, and they were like, oh yeah, yes, this, that, and the other, and and they were laughing and having a ball. The sky was blue, the water was calm, there was nice, happy little clouds all across the sky. But as the disciples were talking, they didn't really notice that these happy, fun, kind little clouds all of a sudden started to turn a little bit darker. Not so happy, slightly irritated. Clouds were now starting to get mad. And then, before long, these clouds had turned black and were furious. And not only was the sky filled with dark clouds, but all of a sudden the nice calm sea turned into gigantic, dream-crushing waves. And the disciples were getting pitched back and forth, and the rain was falling, and they were getting drenched. Oh my goodness! Oh no! And these full-grown men, these disciples, were crying out for their mommies. Some of them were praying to God, and then all of a sudden, one of them remembered, wait a second! I think we've got God in the back of the boat! And so the disciples, as they made their way back to the boat, turned and looked, and what they saw made their faces grow pale. It was the biggest, scariest, meanest, angriest wave they had ever seen, and it was coming right for them. Oh my goodness! And the wave slammed into the side of the boat, and it knocked off Thomas's mullet wig. Oh, and everybody saw that he was actually bald. And then finally, they make it back to Jesus, and they begin to shake him. But Jesus is sleeping so deep. He's snoring, and he's drooling all over the place. And finally, he opens up one eye. And he looks, and Jesus not only sees these soaking, wet, terrified disciples, he didn't just see their stringy, wet beards and their waterlogged togas. Church kids, Jesus saw inside of them. Jesus could see inside their hearts. He could see that these disciples were filled with fear. They were terrified. And he looks at these guys. He probably smiled a little bit, shook his head, and he's like, fellas, why are you acting like such scaredy cats? And then they all looked at each other and like, I don't know, maybe it's because we're about to die! Now, granted, church kids, stop and think about this for a second. The disciples are in the middle of a giant body of water. It is hurricane force winds, huge, nasty, gnarly waves, lightning, thunder. It's like, it's kind of an intense circumstance, wasn't it? But when Jesus spoke to these guys, he didn't even really acknowledge all the circumstances that were going on, did he? Do you know what Jesus said? He said, guys, why are you scared? I'm with you. And then listen to what Jesus does. It says, then Jesus stood up and told the wind to be silent and the sea to quiet down. Silence, he said, and the sea became smooth as glass. Church kids, the disciples are standing there in one moment, getting tossed back and forth. And the next moment, the boat is perfectly still. And you know what Jesus says to them? He says, guys, I'm with you. You didn't have to be afraid. And church kids, there are things that happen in your life, in my life, can I be honest, that sometimes make me feel afraid. I feel fear. And it's like, well, why are you afraid, Mr. Damon? Well, let me tell you, because there's a lot going on in our world right now. And a lot of people have lost their jobs, and a lot of people have gotten sick, and oh my goodness gracious. But church kids, do you know something? Do you know, even though there might be crazy circumstances going on around us, you were not created to be filled with fear. God made you to be filled with peace. What is peace? It's that feeling of being at rest. It's feeling confident. The disciples were terrified. But what was Jesus doing? In the middle of the storm, what was he doing? He was taking like a serious cat nap. Why? Because Jesus had peace. Why? Because he's God. And because he's in control. So church kids, how do you and I get God's peace? Do we get it by going, peace, no fear, bad fear, go away? No, that never works. You know what we do? We change what we're looking at. The disciples were looking at the clouds and the wind and the waves and the lightning and the thunder. And that filled them up with fear. But Jesus was focused on the love of the Father. Jesus knew, I'm God. It's going to be okay. And the truth is, there are going to be times where things happen to us or things happen to our family or maybe even friends that we love that are hard, difficult things. And church kids, do you know that when those things happen, instead of looking at the circumstances, instead of looking at the situation and allowing fear to fill our hearts like filling up a car with Slurpee, whoa, it never ends well. Instead of doing that, we stop and we turn our attention and we begin to think about Jesus. The moment the disciples saw Jesus for who he was, God, all of the fear went away because they knew he's in control. The wind's not in the control. The waves aren't in control. The lightning's not in control. Jesus, you are in control. And when we remember that, instead of fear, peace fills up our heart. And we go from feeling, to being at rest. Even in the middle of the storm. The circumstances may not change. That situation may not go away right away. But it's okay. Why? Because Jesus is right there with you. And wherever Jesus is, he brings peace. Listen to what Jesus says. Peace be with you. And do not be afraid. Church kids, today, we're going to talk to God together. And we're going to ask him. Because I tell you what, I have had a lot of situations, even in the last couple of weeks and months, where fear has tried to fill my heart. And I have needed to remember that Jesus is with me. Are you feeling worried today? Maybe feeling afraid about something? Let's talk to Jesus together. Just say this after me. Say, Jesus, thank you that you never leave me, that you're always with me, and that you are in control. Jesus, I want your peace to fill my heart. And Jesus, I want you to use me to help share your peace with others. Amen.
What a powerful message. Now it's time for us to go talk to our parents about peace. What are some practical ways that we can get rid of worry and be filled with peace?